Afternoon, very warm welcome to everyone. And what an amazing session to be in this afternoon, talking about consumers, talking about technology, talking about future. We are all consumers in this personalized world, and if we put ourselves into that space, we know how important personalization is, how important relevance is, and how we get attracted to brands now who understand us, give us what we want, and drive relevance to us. So that's really the bedrock of our conversation today. I think since morning we are talking about personalization. This is an amazing panel, and where we're going to discuss more and deep dive into what really the next steps and how we are going to get into and make our game bigger with the personalization and the MarTech story. So my first question here, and I'm going to be, kind of fireside chatting and, spending a lot of a question representing our listeners and viewers here, and, putting myself into their shoes to say. So starting with Bharat, I would like to know from you basically that how, what according to you are the key pillars of personalization?
Hi, thank you, Vani. I think a very warm good afternoon for everyone who is joining us wherever from the world. Firstly, I think when it comes to personalization, the core hygiene factors, what we are understanding from organization is the tech stack readiness, because a lot of organizations, there is ample amount of data which is available, whether we call that data as first party or zero party nowadays. But how to streamline this data in a meaningful manner so that as a marketer we can understand what value it has and how to better utilize this. So the initial step is to understand what tech stack should we use as an organization, and there is no one frame fit the size for all, because every organization have different mix of data, whether it's offline, online, sampling data. So different verticals are now understanding the use case of data, and the way we are now seeing most of the trends happening in digital, moving towards a cookieless environment, identity depreciation happening. This is also putting a larger pressure on the brands and the organization to harness the real value of their first party data, not just from an activation point of view, but also to understand the consumer demand. Because personalization, I believe, is no more a nice to have thing, it's a must to have thing in the current environment.
Yes. Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic point to have made. So, Punit, coming to you, I have a question here to say that, what are the key points you considered while building, personalization within your organization and for journey for your consumers?
Thank you, Vani. Look, like Bharat said, customers are expecting personal experiences. It's no longer a luxury for brands to offer these experiences. Whether you see on a grocery website, there are product recommendations, or you see targeted promotions. But somehow we feel that, especially for the automotive industry, the use cases are very different in terms of the personalization. Because today, when you buy a bag of tea bags from Amazon, you are getting a minute detail of how that tea bag is going to arrive to you, when it is going to arrive to you. And it is all happening at a much cheaper price. So the customer expectation is similar when they come out in the market to buy a much more evolved category like a car. So we do focus a lot on making sure that the customers, their expectations are being met. And when you take, so I'll give you an example, because where we are coming from, the context is very important from automotive industry.
Yeah.
I sold a car about 2.5 years back, and even today, and it's from a very reputed brand, global brand, and even today I get calls from them to get this car serviced, get the insurance renewed.
Yeah.
But if I look to buy a car on their website, I will get so many of these display ads coming to me everywhere I go. Technically, they are hounding me. I don't want to name the brand, but uh, that's where the differentiation has to come, because personalization is not for the purpose of the gain of the brands, but it is for the user, for the customer. So when we are doing any kind of these personalization planning, we keep four things in focus. One is the customer context. What is the customer that looking for? Whether they're looking for a test drive, or they want to explore loan options, or they want product information. Make sure that I respect their privacy. Do not bombard the customer with ads. Retargeting is something that is an art more than a science. So we have to be aware of customers' preferences and keep a reasonable gap between in terms of frequency also. Respect customer intelligence. Customers expect you to know what they have already done, right? Because car buying journey is a long journey. So you can't tell them that, okay, now you have seen my website, you have got all the information, you've done the configuration. Now you walk into the showroom and the sales consultant will start from the scratch. So that is very important. And all of this you can only achieve if you have a good understanding of the customer journeys. You have a reasonably well-oiled MarTech stack. So I hope you got the answer that you were looking for.
Thank you so much for that. Very insightful, insight into your industry. So Gaurav, I have a question for you here. Mutual fund industry, of course, has been at the forefront, and financial services anyways been a little on a forefront when it comes to data, when it comes to analytics, when it comes to technical. Earlier, of course, the processes were online, offline, which has changed. Like I have not been to a bank or to buy a mutual fund, I don't know, physically, online, offline for many years now. So however, I do understand, coming from the background, that it's like moving an elephant to bring something new into the, into financial space organization and their regulations. So how are you, coping with it and driving that within, your strategy to move, financial services into the MarTech foray?
Thanks for that, Vani. Let me just start off by painting a picture of what happens to the customer in our category. Like you said, I work with mutual funds. It's a low penetration and low financial literacy. People don't understand the product too much.
Yeah.
And therefore, there are 44 AMCs in this space, and there are multiple product choices. And internet more often than not confuses people than it educates. So one of the roles is, how do you curate content? Yeah. People are time starved in our busy lives with so much of fragmentation. So how do you make the process more efficient? And the last is, because if I don't understand the category, then I don't feel in control. I'm always confused. So how do I give you the control, to give you the confidence of giving your money away, is how we approach this space. So for us, the way we look at it is, while tech and all are the foundational layers and data is the only reason, classical marketing has started with right product, right person, right place, right time. But it's only in the last few decades that with the inundation of data that you've been able to actually bring it together. So for us, really the three principles I would say are, one is around engagement, because it's a point of putting in your money and then taking out your money. So the more we engage, the more opportunities we seek to understand our users and their interest and their behaviors, the better we understand them through the data layer. And the other principle here is on being responsive and resolution, because anything to do with your money, so it goes beyond, I would say, the MarTech structure. It is about culture and processes as well. Yeah. How do you build a more responsive and anticipation of needs kind of a culture? The second piece is on relevance. And I think Bharat, Punit, alluded to that. If you are spammed or retargeted with ads, which you really don't require, information you don't require, then you get irritated. So the relevance is around, the right context, from a financial services perspective, minimal data entry, pre-filled links. If I've already done a due diligence with you, can I fetch that up in an instant and help you complete that journey quickly? And the last is trust building. I think the downside of hyper personalization and this big data is I start getting the creeps.
Yes.
Like Punit said, if people start following me, I'm targeted with data. So how do I build the framework in a manner where I let customers control the information they want to share, but at the same time have a strong disclosure method to say, why am I capturing this information? We have, the very truth is the PII information, the personally identifiable information, and that is information of records for us. Then you have information of transactions where people interact with us, and then their behavior. So when they come visit our website, call our contact center, we are trying to harness all of this into a foundational data layer, if you may, at the first instant, and then using some form of analytics, trying to find patterns which are hidden, I would say, because initially in a linear fashion, you would do a couple of campaigns, 3 or 4 campaigns to a few identified segments. Today, with this capability, if you're able to identify the hidden patterns in the data, you are able to make relevant recommendations to the engine and then create a virtuous cycle, really. I mean, I think I'll take a pause here and then let others speak and come back if required.
Yes. Very sci-fi. I mean, don't be creepy. I think that's a line I have written, and I think that's a mantra for everyone who is trying this relevance personalization. And Gaurav just said it right. Don't be creepy. I mean, learn about your customers, but don't kind of really go there. So coming to you, Som, pandemic, hospitality, we know it's been crazy last 2 years. And of course, things are coming up and models are evolving. So tell us how your journey has been and how you've evolved your marketing game during this time.
First of all, good afternoon to everyone. And thank you so much for giving this opportunity to be a part of this panel. I think some very relevant points have been brought about, and hospitality as an industry is also not very different or far from it. But a couple of things that really stand out for a service industry is definitely the people philosophy. And while we talk about hyper-personalization, personalization, marketing, I think while we have been able to build the technological setup, it is very important that our associates, our employees also understand that, right? And because the biggest challenge that we have in the service industry is it's the last mile who delivers the moment of truth. We can make, super sexy strategies sitting in the boardrooms, but then, when the customer is checking into our hotel, his interactions are with the doorman, with the room boy, the F&B steward. So they need to understand the personalization and use that data to that effect. So we have been actually working for the last 4 to 5 years to actually dovetail the personalization into our people philosophy. We started calling our employees artists because, every individual is an artist in itself. They have their own.
I think so. We lost the connectivity. So can you hear us?
I think the screen is frozen.
Yeah, his screen is frozen. So we'll come back to Som as he rejoins us. Dr. Shailendra, the data is really the fuel, right? And for all this ingestion, all the cool things, we're all talking about analytics and insights and everything. So, what is your journey into this? Like when we're talking about data ingestion, about building, data layers and data lakes and data worlds. So what has been your experience in this evolution?
All right. So first of all, hello to everyone and my dear audience, as well as the distinguished panelists. So I start with how this is happening. Basically, there is a rapid growth in digital transformation across industries, and using the digital technologies like big data analytics, AI, ML, NLP, speech recognition, IoT, So basically to transform the existing business model and generate new revenue streams, where we see there is a different type of data, unstructured data. So this is a big revolution, and data is the key in the digital transformation. And it's a new kind of fuel for AI and ML based engines to generate insights from big data lake. So when we say the big data lake, it's a complete engine where we are collecting the data, ingesting the data, and make it available for our use cases. So whether it's going to the for BI purpose or maybe some analytics purpose, and here we see there is a big transformation while using the latest technologies like Apache Spark, Big Data Framework. So these are the technologies which are improving our ingestion, processing of the data at a very fast speed. So this is very important to get the right data and transform so that it will be available for our applications and generate a different type of insights. So we in our day-to-day life now, every system is on the cloud, and cloud is again a it's a digital transformation vertical which is every industry is utilizing, where we get ready-made end-to-end software libraries, systems to transform, to ingest this data and make available, which we are using in variety of applications like in transportation, telecom, and getting the insights from these applications. For example, real-time tracking of buses, live congestion predictions. So these are the data. Basically, this is because of the GPS data. So GPS data is the source where our systems were getting the data in real time every 10 seconds. And this is the experience we are providing to the end user. And that is very beneficial in terms of getting information. While I am very much convinced with Punit and Gaurav that all the recommendations, so it should be relevant. If there are a lot of recommendations and nobody is using, so basically maybe it's important to analyze by the product managers or the organizations what they should adapt, what should be the way, so that they will send only the relevant. If user is not responding those emails or advertisements, then they should not send the similar things.
Yes.
So this is a need to change. While I will say I will appreciate the technology, because technology is transforming and it is an enabler for all of us to build a future which is good for all of us and provide the personalized useful experiences.
Yeah, I think very, very, very important point made here that technology is really an enabler, but just get your business rules right, what is right for your consumers and what is sort of needed. That's really the gist. We also spoke of AI. In the last 2 years, I've seen a bit of AI use cases around me, especially for things like recommendation, for content recommendation, for our marketing prioritization of campaigns and things like that. While, I was a skeptic 2 years back and said, oh, what is AI and all this? What do they talk, and all that? But I think I've seen some amazing use cases. So this is an open question to the panel. If you have seen some AI-based use cases and you would want to share, any of you here.
Right. So I would like to share my experience.
Sure.
In telecom.
Okay.
So in telecom, because these telecom vendors are the backbone for the telecom operators, like Airtel, Vodafone, around the world, they are the operators and they are getting the services from the telecom vendors like Nokia, Ericsson, Huawei.
Yeah.
So there are the different kind of problems. So one of the example is the operation analytics. How we should improve the user experience by reducing the cost of operational cost. So what we see, there are many times the network failure event happened, right? So because of that, we are not getting the right services. Like as we see, the screen was blank and the person was not able to speak.
Yes.
Right. So such kind of behavior are happening. So some of them are based on the, so these are based on the network KPI behavior. So we build a complete system to predict network KPI failure in advance,
Okay.
so that the operation team get this information in prior, and they can take the corrective action, which will provide the seamless services to the end user.
Right.
So this is a very well-known application which we developed, recognized worldwide, and deployed at the customer premises in a cloud environment. While other side, we also utilizing the social media, because nowadays, if you see, the users are raising their concerns over social media, because companies, industries are getting this information very seriously.
Yeah.
So it is also important. I mean, it's not only the one way, it's a complete surroundings where the industry or the organization should collect the data and see how they are progressing or how their products are providing the services to the end user. So
Right.
we build this complete social media analytics engine, which is analyzing the tweets data and converting this into the different verticals like network quality, customer services, offers.
Yes.
So these are finally leveraged by the organization to improve the services.
Yeah.
So these are the few examples which we build and running, and these are extremely useful for the end user as well as the organization.
Yes, absolutely. So coming back to you, so I know we lost you in between when the conversation was there. And you were making a very, very important point of translating the online insights to offline. So I would love to go back to that conversation because it's very important. Sure. And maybe Punit, you can also chime in because you would also have an offline to online process. And I think it'll be nice to hear from both of you. So,
Sure.
So if you could just continue that conversation, it'd be great.
Sure. My apologies, I think, of the patchy network. But what I was basically mentioning is really using the data that we have captured over the years. And because we are a service industry and it's a very high touch industry for us, apart from the technological platforms that we have, I think our biggest weapon is our employees or our service associates, and to give them or to give them the ammunitions to sort of really personalize the service. That's the biggest thing for our industry, especially today when we talk about an omni-channel strategy. We don't really sweat as much as which channel the customer is coming from, right? Because of course we have our direct channels, as well as online travel agents like Make Your Entree, Booking.com. They are also a big enabler for us to acquire the customer. But everybody today is in the game of owning the customer, and that is the biggest war that we all are today fighting, right? How do we own the customer is through the personalization. So once the customer has come in or engaged or purchased my brand or services, how do we then take care of him or her and we retain them through the life cycle? And that is where I think a right amount of personalization from people as well as technology will really help. My just 2 cents before I give it to Punit on the AI. I think Accor also has been on the forefront. We have actually been capturing data for a couple of years now to build a chatbot wherein we want to position ourselves in the the voice search, where tomorrow hypothetically we may say that, okay, Alexa in your house listens to you and says that, okay, hi Vani, it seems like you've had a tough week. Why don't you take your family out for a holiday to the nearest Sofitel in Goa? And by the way, you have 20,000 points in your loyalty account, and you can actually spend 2 nights and maybe get your favorite foot massage that you so like. So that is the level of AI that we want to bring in, of course, with definitely the fact that we don't want to sound creepy or invade privacies, but definitely that is where the vision is to sort of move in.
Yeah. But I have like, how much is good, like I've seen this on Instagram. I was having this conversation with a friend and we were talking about keto, and it was just 2 minute keto. And as I say, I'm very worried it's going to happen to me again. And I was just flooded with keto ads. And I don't even want to do it. It was just a conversation about how it works or it doesn't work for some people. I think I need to be politically right here. But and it just went on. So how much is okay? And where do you put a stop to this? And where it's, again, the creep, non-creep zone comes in. I'll be freaked out if you tell me that, you've had a tough week, and I'll be like, how the hell do you know, sort of a thing. But yes, it's getting there. But I think how much is like, where to draw the line? So, I mean, any of you have any views on that?
So I think, Vani, you are very much right that there is a very fine line where brands need to step in. And like we see globally, the big movement which is happening based on the tectonic shifts from the three big sides, which is public concerns, government regulations around GDPR, CGPA. In India also, we will very soon see our personal data protection bill getting released. And then on the third side is the big internet giants, which is trying to safeguard and have a thicker and a taller wall so that the data leakage can be minimized, and building more of a privacy first approach. So with all that concept in mind, I think the whole idea of the next phase of digital, what we are seeing, and some of the big leap of faith, what we can see done by Apple with the release of 14.5 is giving the power back to consumer. So let consumer decide what all consent they want to pass it, whether it's an ad tech company or a publisher or an application they're using like an Instagram, or what level of data they want the marketer to use or a brand to use to show them personalize that. Yeah. So the consent is now becoming simple, and the power is coming back in the hands of the consumer. And even if consumer feels after 3 months that they want to delete the data, they want to stop sharing it, all that power is now available. So we are seeing this progress happening globally. There is a big movement which is happening. Some of the iOS heavy market, we have already seen a lot of impacts in terms of tracking performance and conversion, because now consumers are not willing to share their data. So brands cannot track whether they have seen an ad, whether they purchased the product by clicking on that ad. So that measurement and attribution is becoming disrupted. But I think in the end, it's all about how we need to embrace this. So it's more about the same thing what we are talking about, getting into that creep zone versus not putting into a more of an intrusive approach. So how we need to make advertising back to the old days of welcoming advertising for consumers, so that we feel welcomed with a personalized note or a personalized factor, because end of the day, the connection between the personalization is also towards the purchase behavior. Right. So if you see brands who are able to identify the right moment, the right behavior and the right signal, whether it's a D2C category or a traditional FMCG or an auto manufacturer, for them, the purchase behavior has been driven. And I think the last quarter, McKinsey did a survey around personalization. So their results are pretty much on the same guidelines. So I think for them, when consumers are getting a personalized message, whether it's through an AI or a personalized one-to-one communication, there are 70% likelihood that the consumer is going to repeat order or is going to refer that brand or that product to their friends and family.
That's right. That's right. While all of this is happening, obviously, the as you rightly said, the service providers are also giving the power back to the consumers. Like in case of iOS, now they say, do you want to hide the email or do you want to give the real email? And they're creating a pseudo email, so your data is not passed out. Gmail continually asks you, do you want this email? Do you don't want? They automatically put emails back into a spam or into your promotional inbox if it's coming through automated channels. WhatsApp blocks you today if you send more than even 10 from a WhatsApp message, which is a promotional nature and not approved by them. So yes, for marketers, it's kind of tightening the screws are getting tightened, right? And we have, as marketers, we have to be responsible about it. So I have this question for you, Gaurav, because especially financial services uses a lot of telecalling and a lot of ways and means to reach, and bordering on harassment sort of a situation for sometimes for users. So how are you tackling that within the organization?
Vani, thanks for that question. I mean, fortunately for us, we are not in that zone where we do tons of outbound calling, etc. Because, like I said, consumers really don't need it's a subliminal requirement. They don't realize that they need to make investments. So the first task is to raise awareness that you need to invest to protect the buying power of your money. And therefore, a lot of our effort, if you may, where we flood the consumer with messaging is around investor education and not really on the purchase. The purchase is the automatic drop off of building that connection. So I would say beyond the technology, so whenever we deploy technology, we try to identify on what value is it creating for either the user or the customer. Because if it is creating benefit for the user in terms of not doing repetitive tasks, then that mind space, that bandwidth is freed up to better serve the customer. So whether it is our telecalling agents or anyone else. And therefore, the approach is always to take measured steps and stay small in this zone, have a do, learn, do kind of an approach. While, it sounds fancy and it is nice to be talking about these things, but our journey is an ongoing journey as I speak. And for the last 10 years, it started from small steps of just unifying data, because till PAN, there was a unique ID for the customers till a few years ago. We didn't have a parameter to identify a customer. How do you create a unique ID? So just unifying the database, not only then unifying the database, but then translating that as a data lexicon within the organization, that everyone understands when I'm talking about data or using a terminology, what am I talking about? Then doing meaningful analysis and then figuring out what are the experiences you want to deliver either offline or online. Say, for example, if somebody comes across and interacts with me on my IVR and gives a channel preference, or a language preference, we like to believe that we would want to continue the engagement when we are doing emailing or when we talk to him next in the same language. And this might be very small, but I'm saying this is where you iterate and see what are the possible challenges, because the larger ecosystem, whether it's in terms of data entry or disclosures or scheme information documents, are all in English. So you might want to use the vernacular to engage and talk, but you don't want to confuse when he or she actually comes for the purchase and sees, hey, they were talking very nice things in my language, but I don't see the same. So we are now therefore experimenting with the assisted voice-based UI using AI, in a journey where in the app, we are using a language to help the customer guide through the transaction. So these are experiments. I think the culture is to deploy tons of these technologies and keep on seeing in short, finite bursts whether it is adding value. When I say adding value, it is reducing, classically the friction, the time I take to input information, whether I'm asked to do the same thing again and again. I've been a bank customer, one of the largest banks, for 20 years. Every 2 years, the RM will come back and say, sir, PAN de do. And, actually, you want to tear your hair out, it might be a regulation, but it's that's where it tells you whether the data at the back end is integrated or not, and what is happening to this activity. So I don't know whether it answered your question, but customer first to build that emotional connect. I think that's a culture, training, collaboration piece. Data layer, obviously, building then a signal of data-led decision making, which is around analytics. I think more important is when we do, it is not the responsibility of the BIU which I run, but how do I create access for the analytics I'm running or information for all the users across the organization? Because if I'm not able to provide the data at the unit level, people will not be able to act on it. It again becomes a top-down approach, and it delays time. And just function on the process. So if you deploy AI on a bad process, it will lend to unhappiness more than solving a problem. So you have to look at processes, removing redundancies, and we in the last, I would say, decade or so, we moved from just digitizing to digitalizing, and now because we have youngsters who can think natively in this space, they are looking at ways to utilize different tech and say, how can I create a new experience?
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Customer first, that's so critical. So Punit, traditionally in your industry, it's really the dealers who always own the customer in a way, right? Because the sales process happens there, and the first call, or if you're kind of not so happy with the brand, you definitely walk into the dealer, because that's like a one-to-one relationship. While there was a overarching brand advertising, making it aspirational for you to buy that automobile. But in during this pandemic, especially I've seen with EV and stuff like that, there's a lot of online out there kind of build up happening from automobiles as well. So how are you gearing up for that journey, and is that making any difference in your world?
Thank you for asking that question, Vani, because honestly, we are in automotive industry, we are going through changes at multiple levels, because automotive industry, in terms of operational structure has not changed ever since it has actually been established as a proper industry. In fact, 5 years back, the way an automotive player would operate is you build the product, you do research every 6 months. That research tells you what product to build, what customers, which segment will grow, and then you put all your energies in building the product in, and dealers will be ready with the funding, and you then flood the market or the dealers with the product, and then it is dealers' responsibility to basically liquidate their stocks. And this consumer interaction with the brand is not at all linear, unlike in some of the other industries. And the way the industry has restructured itself from the customer's point of view is that most of the research happens online. Most of the inputs for the decision making are coming from the online research. The influence is also coming from online. You go watch videos on YouTube of some of the experts. You post on Facebook, okay, which cars do you recommend? This is what I need. All of that is happening online, but the decision making is happening at the dealership.
Right.
So only about 5% of the total time that you invest in making that decision is the time that is actually resulting in the final decision. Because if you enter a dealership and you don't get the experience that you come to expect from whatever information you have gathered online, so I can put all kind of technology, AI behind that journey, make it look fantastic, and you enter the dealership and the dealership doesn't offer you a glass of water. Okay, I'm not entering this dealership again, right? And it's end of story.
Yeah.
That is where we are trying to bridge that gap. We are trying to bridge that gap in a non-intrusive way, because dealerships are also becoming a little defensive. So, change has its own cycle.
Yes.
So distributor will always become defensive that, okay, now OEM is kind of stepping onto my shoes, and I own the customer. So how can OEM come and start talking to the customer on digital channels? So it's a very kind of sensitive relationship which we have been trying to nurture, and we are trying to use technology to facilitate that process. So on this AI, so of course it is not an AI, it's not a good AI example. I would say it is more of a machine learning solution that we are working with, where we are working on the propensity models. And we are trying to give as much information as possible to the people in the field to say, okay, this customer has already done this, and this is where right now the customer decision point is, and this is the likelihood of this customer converting, so that they can prioritize in terms of whom to call, which stage of the journey the customer is in. And we are not being pushy about it. We are not saying that if we are giving you 50 prospects, you have to convert 10 of them. We're saying, okay, you give us your feedback. So it is an iterative process. So it is basically human plus machine, which have to come together and make the whole ecosystem more intelligent for the customer to benefit. Because at the end of the day, customer wants to make the right decision.
Right.
And that's where our focus is, to use technology as much as possible to bridge this gap, make sure that the customer enters with a smile into our dealership and comes out with a bigger smile, and of course with keys to the car.
Right.
So
Yeah.
So we are, that's where we are with respect to how we are trying to change this, basically the structure of the industry itself. Because okay, 5 years back, even when you would enter a dealership, people will talk discount to you. Madam, itna price hai iska, ispe aapko, this is the offer we are giving.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we are moving away from that, and we are talking about a mobility solution. You're saying, okay, what is your need? I can offer you a subscription, I can offer you a lease, I can offer you buyback and all of that, but you tell us what your need is, and accordingly we will serve you. So we are still not there. I'm not telling you that you enter a dealership and you will get this conversation, but the start has been made, and we are moving in that direction.
Right. So I guess, everyone, or rather it's like kind of an industry known thing that things, what was there 2 years back is not what is going to be even, 2 months or, 3 months ahead. That the change is so rapid, and the consumer expectations are changing, and so are, markets expectations, and, there is cross industry expectations, like, as Amazon delivers in 24 hours, obviously grocery should deliver in 24 hours, and the ambulance should deliver in like 10 minutes, not 24 hours, but 10 minutes. And there's so much conversation, which is, kind of pampering the consumer for maybe there's a case or not use case. So from each of you, I would like to understand, and starting with you, Dr. Shailendra, that how are you gearing up, for being future ready for this? So how soon, your organization would change, or your processes or your marketing capabilities are changing with the changing expectations of consumers?
Right. So as we are into more developing the AI and ML use cases, so always so we are working on the future ready use cases.
Okay.
So those are not currently deployed at this time, but we are building those which can be as a future demand for the users, as well as basically reducing our operational cost. So like we are building the other application, how to reduce the field operation cost. So analyzing the behavior as well as the problem, whether we should send field operation engineer at the site or not. So we can take the decision at the operational control center whether we should send the operation engineer or not. So those kind of things we are at the back end is focusing, so that we will build a better infrastructure, because technology is there. And now we have to see how this technology will be useful for organization benefit, as well as providing the better services to the end user, so that they will feel, they will experience, seamless services.
Yeah, that kind of course, makes complete sense. Bharat, how are you readying your clients?
Yeah, so I think at Omnicom, the whole essence and the idea, if we see compared to other agency holding groups, we are any which ways highly indexed over digital. compared to the brands we focus on, majorly around auto, consumer electronics, luxury, and all that set. So I think with digital high index for us, data and technology is part of the DNA, because this is what the teams live day in, day out. And we already started this journey pre-pandemic. If I give you use cases, in a lot of clients, there is hand-in-hand collaboration, what we're doing with the human and the AI element. So since we all talked about personalization, and we might have seen a lot of brands within our portfolio are driving personalized ad on digital media, YouTube channel, search ad copies are getting personalized. So there is tons of data, which as a agency brand manager, what we are trying to understand is we're going into terabytes. So imagine a single impression getting served on any website or an application. There are 2000 log variables which is getting generated. What time of the day, what content, what was the behavior, what device, day of the week, all that aspects. So harnessing that log level analysis is becoming a tough task for humans. So in this entire space, the technology use case, both of AI and ML, is clearly helping us do the better decisioning, which permutation combination of an ad copy with a device type, whether it's going on connected TV, what time of the bandwidth is giving us the best outcomes for our brand, is one of the easy use case which we are deploying any which ways. The other aspect what we are seeing is also on the governance. So I think in this past 2 years, every organization have also seen a great resignation, and the shortage of talent in the industry is becoming a big challenge for most of the verticals. Most of the categories are finding it tough to find a skilled, trained talent. So this is where again the use of AI and ML to bring a basic governance at an organization level in terms of whatever we are catering, whether it's plan versus delivery budgets, whether it's the best practices of setup, guidelines, financial invoicing processes. So it's all where we are actually using in day-to-day life the AI and the ML use case. Plus, I think the way we see this overall journey of digital now going into omni-channel, because majorly we have seen India as a market, the linear TV shift towards connected TV is happening, and the pandemic actually gave a big boost to this. So I think with this more devices getting connected to digital, we would have more opportunity to understand the consumer demand and what type of personalization in what device, what type of concept they are looking in, and to cater that demand, I think end of the day, we have to use technology.
That's right. That's right. So, Gaurav, you had mentioned that you've got all these young brains and working fine, and Bharat somewhere did mention with resources being a little bit of a challenge for everyone in this space. So, how are you attracting this talent and kind of building up your tech story? What is the secret?
No secret. I think it's a very tough ask. If I'm not in that business, it's very tough to get deep skilled people into a different business, because the learning environment and everything else, your nourishment comes from colleagues who are doing similar cutting edge stuff. So I think one of the ways we are doing it is getting in people who can build domain understanding, business understanding, but building in tons of partnerships which can help us go this journey. In fact, we ran a very large digital transformation project which started about 3.5 years ago. We are the oldest asset management firm in the country today. And believe you me, it was quite a change process. But how it helped us is last year when the lockdown was announced, 3 days flat, everything was on the cloud. Our investment teams, our frontline guys, our employees, everyone could operate seamlessly. I think the next level of challenge was how do you get them to start working differently in a collaborative fashion, using virtual tools, using technology. So I think the other thing which we wear seriously is because we deal with people's money and it's over-indexed on regulations. We take that responsibility very seriously. The way investments are normally sold is basically on past performance. But hey, I mean, having been there in the market, we realize it's not like smuggling that you get quick gains overnight, right? It has its pitfalls also. So you want to, that emotional connection which I was talking about, building on a bedrock of trust, has to be get in the people the right way, get them stay with you for a long time and then start taking baby steps so that they continue their journey, because we are here to partner you as you grow economically and prosper economically. So around tech, I think the short answer is we are working with multiple technology partners. And when I say multiple, for us, less is more. It's back to basics. So if it is about emotional connections, it's people buy into people, then there is a brand choice, and last is a product choice, because product is the Greek in mutual funds. Very few people understand it.
Right.
So high tech, high touch, I think, is the way to go.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you are always seeking relevance and seeing what will it do to my business. And we are very cost sensitive at the end of the day. We are a basis point kind of a business. So it's a high volume business on the consumer side. So if we are adding some technology, how does it add value at the customer side? How does it, add value for me, either in efficiency of operations or reducing costs? So those are kind of filters we use and enhance the experience in that sense.
Absolutely. So over to you, Som. What are your remarks with respect to being future ready?
Yeah, I think one of the points that I want to put forward here is loyalty is a big lever for the overall being future ready. I think today what we realize is we need to continue to connect with the customer, even if even beyond the hotel stay. So for us, of course, hotels is a threshold, but we've realized that even the most loyal customer stays only 10 to 12 days in a year at a hotel. What am I doing with the rest of the 350 days? How am I staying connected with that customer when he's not staying with me? And that's where I think loyalty through partnerships, strengthening the loyalty currency, even through dining offers. So today, if I'm not staying at a hotel, but I'm giving you points or earning opportunity on my loyalty program if you just dine with me, or the entire value chain. So that's one pivotal thing that we are looking to stay connected with the customer throughout and through the loyalty lever.
Amazing. Punit, what's your comment on this?
See, like I said, right now we are going a much larger transformation in automotive industry as compared to anything what has happened to the industry in the last 100 years. And we are still trying to figure out our role in the ecosystem because this ecosystem is evolving and the disruption is coming not only from the customer point of view, but technology disruption is also coming. So EVs are going to make a very big dent in the current internal combustion or petrol diesel based machines, and a lot of OEMs have actually stopped investing in newer generation engine technology. And of course, the disruption is coming on the data side. And I just have one additional point on whatever Bharat said with respect to more and more protection coming for the customer and more choices coming for the customer. Whatever I have seen from the big two, the guys who make all the money of all the brands, I think it is moving away from your data being available to everyone to your data being available to people, right? So they are building their walled gardens. So it is not all hunky-dory for the customer at the end of the day. Because whatever said and done, we still want Google to help us get from point A to point B. We still want Google to send an email to our near and dear ones. So yes, there will be change. There will be more control for the customer to share information and information being used. But I don't see that much of a change. I think we are giving more power to powerful people. Today, even when you start writing your email on Gmail, you get recommendations that this is how you should, this is the English you should write. So
yes,
so
it's a concern. Yes.
So how do you protect your customers in this ecosystem is very, very important. Yes, we cannot, whatever we do personally is our decision, but how do we make sure that our customers are also protected and that is where the good thing is that Nissan as a global brand is highly focused on this, and we have very well structured governance in place to take care of the future, the customer needs and the customer security, privacy. And as far as tech is concerned, I think we made a choice. So you can go two ways. Either you go this big bang, take a expensive enterprise solution, which comes with the DMPs and the CDPs and the loyalty platform and CRM analytics and whatnot, or you build your own. You take a guerrilla fighter approach and build something which is relatively bespoke, right? Each has its own pros and cons. Personally, I feel that, and I recommend also to build own ecosystem. Because there are so many good mid-sized players, mid-sized tech players who are focused on building these niche capabilities. And given what Gaurav said and what others also kind of talked about, the talent deficit that we have, I don't think we, as large corporations, we have the attractiveness and the capacity to hold that talent. So you have to have smart partners working with you to extend that important capability to you.
Yeah, could have agreed more, and I've already got twice hints. We have taken all the time away, but I do want to bounce this last question off to everyone before, because I sort of a concluding remark, just like a one-liner from each of you. And what is that one advice you want to give to the audience today to do or not do as they get future ready with their MarTech? Just one line, a quick line from each of you. Bharat, starting with you right here.
So in the MarTech, there is what we call tech taxonomy. So don't deploy every tech. Just first analyze what is required for your business and what is adding value to your customer.
Great. Yeah, Som, you want to go next?
Yeah, I think at least for larger part of the service industry, I think base your technology, align and correspond it with people philosophy.
Right. That's right. Gaurav, over to you.
I would like to say it's never technology that disrupts business. It's always how people adopt technology, which makes that change. So keep the focus on customers. And I would concur with what Punit said. Start small, do learn, do.
Yeah, that's right. Dr. Shailendra?
Yeah, I would say that AI and ML technologies are boon for industry. So only this is the responsibility of the organizations and the processes. So they should use this technology in a better way to get personalized experiences to the end user.
Right. Punit, anything? I think you concluded well then, saying that, listen, make your own technology. And, that's kind of the headline I'm taking away from you.
I just want to, I know I've already said it a few times, but I have only one singular advice if anyone takes from me any day. Do not spam in the name of personalization. Understand customer context and think twice before engaging with the customer on what the customer is going to gain from that interaction.
Right. So yes, amazing conversation here. Don't spam, have your customer first. Don't be creepy. Don't, misuse what you have. Start small, choose your technology wisely. AI, ML are here to stay and they're going to change the world. Please use it. And it's not the technology which is going to create a disruption. It is what you're going to think for the consumers that's really going to kind of drive the change. And be focused, especially with the offline and online consumers, that your online strategies, everything is getting translated to your offline channels as well. So you create an omni-channel, great experience. And yes, keep hooking onto that loyalty program and the loyalty tactics you have, because that's what the future is. So what an amazing insights here. That's a lot of nuggets for that 45 minutes we spent together. So over to you, Kavya.
Thank you so much, Vani. I believe the session, the way it just turned out to be nothing short of a masterclass. I'm being very honest. The kind of insights that you managed to extract from all the speakers, So I'm going to thank you, Vani, for beautifully moderating it for us. And thank you indeed to all our panelists for sharing some very relevant insights with all of us, your expertise and your experiences with us. Thank you once again for joining us at the summit.